dream. And that's something that, like, again, community brings that forward. It's why we show up on Sundays
Typically, like not in any kind of it's in your head way, but actually responsible for 100% of our experiences. Um, which makes it interesting to then understand, like, where do those experiences come from? And most of them, if not all of them, come from the programs that are in our mind, which are largely trauma. Like, it's largely just imprints that got left for one reason or another, that then play out over and over again. And it's like those universal truths.
Fascinating time to be alive right now, and a lot of it is because we have this access that your dad's generation. I've talked to your dad about these profound teachers. He went and sat at their feet in the auditorium or the ashram. Like, that's where he got his wisdom. And now I'm listening with my little headphones on while I'm cooking dinner, listening to these voices. Like, we have opportunity to access so much in this time, and also this town loves accessing.
It doesn't matter how good your philosophy is. It doesn't matter how you understand all the spiritual lessons. It doesn't matter how well you understand how you should react, how you should observe, how you should have presence, how you should this. Even all the tips and advice on how to get there are not that useful unless you've uncovered and changed the underlying programming.
There you go.
Like,
but why he's not that way? That he needs to be this way? Why? Can someone change him? No, not at all. Like, I needed to change my program, and changing my program, it made to have a very much easy interaction with him.
Yeah.
Letting go a lot of, like, the control for me was a lot. Like, letting go the control, but he needs to do this. He needs to do this. No.
hello and welcome back to Esoteric Vilcabamba. We're going back to that name. They don't know. They may disagree. You know why we're going back to that name?
I don't know.
Because it ruffles the most feathers.
Oh, is that what's happening
Yes.
today? That's the energy field I tapped into.
It ruffles.
We're
going to
double down on this.
We may triple down on
Let
this.
the games begin.
So anyone whose feathers are ruffled, in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. But guys, thanks for tuning in. Good to be back with you. We had a couple of weeks hiatus here, and we have done some rescheduling. We're into rainy season now. It appears here in Vilcabamba, which if you're going to get a rain in Vilcabamba during rainy season, it generally speaking rolls through in the PM. So we are now recording in the AM. We're up, we're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and ready to rock.
And we're in the yoga shala, so this is where the goodness can happen, right? This is the container here.
Absolutely. So guys, thanks for tuning in. We're going to talk about all kinds of different stuff today. A little reprogramming the mind, a little dark room experience, which was interesting. Some parenting, some balance stuff, some I believe some masculine, feminine. I don't know, what do you call it? Balancing or exploration.
Healing the wounds of the masculine and feminine to help balance it. That's the tagline.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm sticking to it.
That's a
I'm
good
sticking
one.
to it.
That's a good one. So yeah,
And some EFT too, yeah? Some tapping.
EFT
Yeah.
stuff.
Nice.
Absolutely. So yeah, like one of the things I think for people like us, that have chosen to make Vilcabamba where we live, one of the things about this community is the amount of resources that are there for whatever it is that you happen to be interested in or working on, right? It's a very diverse community, but for the most part it seems to be, a community of seekers to a large degree. And there's lots of different belief systems in Vilcabamba. It's certainly not, Vilcabamba is X or Vilcabamba is, Y modality or philosophy or religion. There's many different things that people prescribe to here, but there's inordinate, there's a, disproportional for sure amount of people who live here who are seeking to better themselves, who are working with various modalities, who are working on themselves, who are on that sort of journey, whatever that means for them. And so one of the things that produces or allows for here in Vilcabamba, besides just amazing community and friends and people to share and hang out with, but because there's so many interesting high-level people here who are accomplished at one modality or another, or who are seeking and doing things and involved in things, there's just an amazing amount of resources for spiritual practices, for, you know, sort of self-improvement, I would argue, practices, modalities, opportunities, conversations, workshops, one-on-one sessions, experiences, so on and so forth. And one of those that we actually have in Vilcabamba is a dark room, which is kind of, I think, something of a fad or a phenomenon these days. It's kind of caught on a bit. People are. It made the mainstream in a serious way with Aaron Rodgers, who perhaps the two of you have no idea who that is. I don't know, but
we can share. So if we don't know, maybe other people don't know.
Well, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history.
Oh, I definitely don't know.
And he's currently he's old now. He switched teams this year. Old for the NFL. He's probably my age, a little younger.
This is the big Packers.
He was the Packers for many years, and now on the Jets. And he's an interesting guy. So he actually stood very strongly against the jab, and then also, which was not easy to do in the NFL because they were very serious about it. Yeah. And then also did an ayahuasca journey somewhere along the line, and has gone into the dark room. So, of course, the sports world was calling him crazy and wondering, you know, what's his decision going to be coming out of the dark room. But
I like this guy.
Anyways, he kind of popularized, the dark room, and I think, other people have, of course, too. But
and for those who maybe have heard of it, but they're not exactly sure, like, how would you describe, or maybe I'll describe and you can add on, because I have not actually had the darkroom experience, but it is something that provides what I would call like a complete sensory deprivation, and it's not to be confused with the deprivation tanks. That's an often question, like, oh, these like the float tanks. That's a separate thing. That's amazing. But you go into a room that's completely dark for whatever amount of period of time that you feel is right and the facilitators feels right for you. And in that period of time, because you're in total sensory deprivation with sound and sight, you can still touch the things around you. There are layers of the psychology in the mind that start to peel back, like that onion, the metaphorical onion layers come back and back. And I don't want to steal too much of whatever you experience, but I can see from like a academic standpoint, or knowing what I know about psychology, when the body and the mind is left alone, you have no place but to go totally inward and be completely present with your own stuff, your own self. That mind stuff is intense. And then eventually the ship will start to right itself, and the truth will kind of be revealed. But I'm curious, like, how would you add on to that description for those people who really have no idea? There's definitely folks out there who don't know what the darkroom is.
Sure. Yeah, as you guys know about me, I don't come at anything from the academic standpoint, so I wouldn't be the right person to share on that. Yeah. But we're going to have Nick on either this pod or another and definitely pick his brain, because I have heard him sharing some of the sort of scientific basis for the darkroom, which I think you summarized well. But I think it has something to do with the sensory deprivation causes triggers in the body, both hormonally and otherwise, that sort of force things to happen. So I think academically, the way I've heard him describe it and others is it's like first you just kind of catch up on exhaustion, which I definitely did experience that. It was like they shut me in at like not late, like 6 or 7 p.m.
Okay.
I was asleep within 20 minutes. Like it was like my body was just like, there was not a chance I was going to stay awake for very long. So you definitely start with that. And I only did it for 3 days. Some people do, apparently like that 7-8 day mark is really the like gold standard.
The next breakthrough levels.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I guess there's a few. I guess there's the exhaustion, and then there's some stuff that comes up. And again, we'll get him to actually speak about it. But there's some stuff that comes up at some point with like programs, like things start to get revealed. But then I guess the other step, which I definitely didn't get to, but I think is around 7-8 days, you basically start to trip. Like you basically DMT starts getting released, and you start to like have sort of, almost plant medicine level
the psychedelic experience.
So I didn't make it that far, but but even 3 days, you know, it's takes some doing. Like,
My sense is you had real breakthroughs and it was really effective. And, you know, we can always go for like fasting. You know, fasting for just 24 hours does something beneficial. You fast for 3 days, what's different? You fast for 7. It's all just these different kind of levels to it.
Sure.
But I think 3 days is pretty impressive. I have not done this at all.
Yeah, I mean, I would, like, having experienced it, I would definitely highly recommend it to people.
Yeah.
For me, it was, you know, it has its highs and lows. Like, you know, there's moments you're alone in the dark, and the place was beautiful. So you have everything you need. You're comfortable.
Yeah. And this is in Vilcabamba, rather the neighboring town right next to Vilcabamba.
Like
so this is what we're saying, what's available to us
13, 14 minutes from.
Yeah, we have people who are expert in this field, amazing husband-wife couple who we'll be talking to, but they have created this. You know, they built this for us, and people come in from outside the country. I mean, internationally, people come in for this experience with them and a whole retreat.
Yeah, well, and they're German and Italian, so they get a lot of international clientele.
Yeah.
Specifically, I think from Italy quite a bit. They're into like natural hygiene and other stuff that's pretty cool. But yeah, so for me, definitely the catching up on sleep was I experienced that part. But then, what happened to me, which, you know, would be, I think, different for everybody. But for me, you know, that sort of, that level, that kind of unique experience from my journey that I was looking for, whether I knew it or not, you know, there was a lot for me of like just opening up in a way that I have not done since I was probably, you know, like a little kid. So I was crying quite a bit, which I don't find crying easy. Like I've been, as Ida knows,
yeah, you've mentioned that before. Yeah,
it's been kind of a goal of mine to like break down that ability, that barrier between, you know, allowing yourself to feel those emotions and let them out. So I was enjoying that. I was kind of like,
winning.
I'm crying.
This is what winning looks like.
Yeah. But that was cool, and I found myself singing a lot, which I guess Carl had gone in there for like a day or two, and he was like, "Oh, me too." I was singing a lot, but I found myself singing a lot, which was really enjoyable. Yeah, it was very like putting me in touch with my heart kind of stuff, which I was very appreciative of. Had a lot of revelations, because you just have a huge amount of time not only to think in a completely undistracted way. I mean, literally, you have nothing to do. So it's kind of almost forced meditation. It's like, even if you aren't, even if you're not going in there with the intention of meditating, you're kind of meditating the whole time, because there's nothing to do. You know, there's no way to distract yourself. I guess you could. There is like a pull-up bar that I used once, but but basically I moved between laying down and sitting up. Those were my, those were my movements. There's a bathtub in there that was nice if you can find, the stuff to turn on. But yeah, I found it, I found it very beneficial just in terms of where I'm at on my processes, in terms of my habits, my patterns, my programs that I have running that dictate my life. And then being able to sort of pause, have that kind of time out to just dive into that one-on-one in a sustained way that, again, you can't escape. I mean, you could leave, but other than that, you're going to be in the process, whatever that process is for you. So, yeah, I would do it again. I liked it a lot. 7 or 8 days would be hard, for sure. I mean, even the 3 was challenging in the sense that, at least for me, there was like moments of euphoria where it's like I should stay a few more days, this is incredible. This is incredible. I'm feeling the benefits. And then there's moments where it's just like, get me the out of here, right?
Did you come close to leaving ever?
Didn't, but that's just because I'm stubborn. It's not because it's because I had decided.
How bad did it get? Yeah, so you'll tough anything out, but how bad did it get? Like, how close did you want it?
Yeah, I mean it would be, I would get so after the first night, I really wasn't tired during the day, and I could tell. Some of them you can't tell if it's day or not. In this one I could, because there's some sound. So I would hear the birds when they're like waking up the morning around.
But you couldn't see anything.
Couldn't see anything.
So you couldn't even like your hand in front of your face. It's how dark it is. Okay.
Yeah. But I did have a sense, and when they brought you your food, you would know, you know, more or less what time it was.
Yep.
I wasn't tired during the day. By the end of the day, like each day, I was really shot mentally, and wanting to leave. You know, it was very much like my family is 15 minutes away. I go hug my wife and kids and just chill out and like have a bite to eat and, you know, just
the relief
relax.
that would come from that.
Yeah. And so there was some definitely times where I would have liked to do that, but I didn't make that an option for myself mentally.
Yeah. There's something, can I add something?
Please.
I've heard this kind of metaphor, I've used it for myself, maybe not specifically just for the dark room, but in general, whenever we do these like deep dive types of retreats, where you have no choice but just to keep going inward, at some point, it's like your brain becomes the screaming baby that's the ego resisting, and you just have to let the baby cry itself out. Like eventually your thought patterns will start to settle and the clarity that comes after that. But I know from some other experience I've had, like it is amazing how loud the stories can be and the narratives and those programs and the things, and I'm making these mental lists of what's going to happen after the experience it gets to, and then you realize none of it matters. And we are just so, like, we're just souls having this experience. And I don't know exactly what your revelations were, but for me, I was like, I saw myself just calm down from some of these hooks, you know, some of these like, this is so important, we have to do this by this time and you're like, no, actually I can really release the tight grip that I had on a lot of storylines in my head. Yeah,
it's quite amazing because I want to share that the whole experience that he was having, and I imagine that every single person will have a different experience in terms of what is their trauma.
Yeah.
So all the experience that you have is kind of like what it's not exactly, but what I do every single day. Like my always kind of like be present on like no, like a little voice is always, I don't know if you guys know, like the good guy and bad guy.
Yes.
It's kind of like the good guy is always trying to like stop me and like do things better.
Yeah.
So it's very beautiful, that experience. I wanted to also like go and do it, but I believe that I will have a different experience because I have different fears. So for example, like we can you are trying to cry a lot. I'm very easy crying. Like I cry very, very easy. Like we watch a movie and like someone die and I'm like crying like if it's like my mom. I'm like, oh my God, I can't stop it. I cry very easy, and so there is different wounds, and like only the fact, for example, when he went away, that loneliness that it felt, like only to have his presence at home, it will make me feel safe.
Yeah.
But when he wasn't there, I went to sleep early just because I feel uncomfortable. Like I didn't like it. So that's kind of like what I noticed, that was my wound as well. And also like it helped me as well with the notice like what am I doing and how I appreciate he is always trying to make me be a better human. And when he wasn't around, I didn't have like the weight of expectations to do better, to be more healthier. I'm like okay, like, but it feels super weird, like, oh, now you can just relax. I'm like, oh, I don't feel happy doing this, like eating something that was not as healthy, that he's super into the health. I'm like, well, but it was great because I noticed that if I didn't have his presence, I didn't have that motivation to be better every day more. So,
and having that time apart gives you that gap to realize that, because often, I know you guys are good friends, like you guys move fast, there's a lot going on, we got the family, we got work, and you work and the family, it's all connected. And I remember after, when Jesse was in the dark room, we might have been messaging, and you said like something like, I realize I miss him. Like it's a good thing to realize, wow, there's something that feels missing in my life without any of these, and this is just from my experience, not reflecting what you guys shared with me. Maybe there's like some even codependency things, or like where do we rely on the person so much for this? And it's like, well, wait a minute, I can do this, or how do I really feel about something without someone constantly being the influence on it? And it goes both ways in the relationship. So I think you both got to cleanse in a way. Like you got a
absolutely.
3-day
No,
cleansing experience.
I noticed a lot of fears I had when he wasn't around, like the
Wow.
loneliness, and like I want to do the dark room, but I think the loneliness is gonna be big for me when there is no other present.
Yeah.
It feels weird, and I remember when I was little and I was alone in the house, I was afraid. So what I would do, it was turn the TV on because it will make me feel that there
Something's
is
there.
something is happening. So I do have that, and
Yeah.
it's something that I will have to face
Yeah.
before.
That might be,
life
or maybe
makes
the
me-
dark room is where you
Exactly,
face
yes.
exactly that. It's interesting. I didn't think, but it makes so much sense. Obviously, like childhood, whether it's trauma or negative experiences in childhood, like, yeah, that totally affects loneliness and abandonment. And this, even though you know your husband's like in 3 days you'll see him if you're in the dark room, but it'll probably bring back a ton of triggers. It's just kind of what you're saying, like the stuff that came forth. You know, we're all wired very differently. On the other hand, I'm kind of the opposite. I prefer to be alone in a lot of ways. I prefer my own company.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
And I am also like a social person, and I engage like deeply, and I have such a big heart and connection, so that I can then go fully inward, and like that's where I find my most calm and peace is like in my own solitude, like with my own company. But I do love that engagement, so it's half and half. But yeah, I guess I'm feeling like now it's just that constant presence of the other. Like I just need my own space a lot. But that's how we find the balance of it. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously I can't speak to what anyone else's experience would be like, you know, in this sort of something like that. But yeah, at least for me, it was. I was remembering, it was a lot of like singing to and also blessing people and experiences in my life that
That's
like
awesome.
affected me in a large way. Mostly from younger, like mostly for me, it was
Really?
mostly like the titans of my life when I was a kid, and sort of the way that
Yeah.
you know because it, you know, my experience for myself in that you know, in that light, in that capacity was you know, I have this set of beliefs about myself that I picked up young, which then sort of created my experiences in my life, and it also creates my perceptions about myself, but then also people's perceptions about me, and then of course what my perceptions do about the people's perceptions about me, right? So it's like that.
Yeah.
It's like starts that cycle, which then, you know, doesn't end unless you consciously end it or change it. And so a lot of my life, I'm 40, I'll be 41 next month. Like a lot of my life over the last 20 years, you know, has been trying to figure that stuff out, right? Like why do I feel this way, or why is X, Y, and Z happening, or why do I feel this way, or this, and those answers have always come back to me. Like the only solutions or answers I found in that stuff is that it's self-perceptions. Like it's stuff that we believe about our world, about our reality, about ourselves, that then create experiences that confirm that.
Yeah.
And then if it's a negative cycle, then we feel bad about whatever those experiences are that we just created to confirm our own, you know, our own perceptions or our own beliefs. So a lot of the time for me was not only recognizing some of that, and a lot of that I had already, but not only recognizing some of that, but like making peace with it.
Yeah.
You know, like making peace and like really thanking and blessing the people who played these roles for me in my life, regardless of, you know, where it's at now, or regardless of where perceptions went over the years.
Yeah.
And some was good, some was bad, you know, and everything in between.
It's like, thanks for that 20-year psychological belief system that you're in, but now you're on the other side because it served you in some way.
It all does, right?
Yeah.
And that's, you know, in fact, Nick, who's the facilitator, you know, of the dark room. Well, actually, I'll tell this story real quick too. So I come out of the dark room, and I'm actually gonna leave one part out, which Day knows about, but I think I'm gonna leave it out. But I can't. I come out of the dark room, and without meaning to, we jumped right into this tapping. So I literally like, you know, like eyes are adjusting. I've been out of the room like 15 minutes. And then they were supposed to let me out, but I just went out. I guess if they came a little bit later, I went out a few minutes early or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I've been out for like 10-15 minutes. They come, and then we start talking, like, how's it, you know, they're asking me, and I like these people quite a bit. They're friends.
Yeah.
I've known them a long time. Like,
Yep.
you know, they're asking, like, how to go and this and that. And I don't remember what it was based on my answer, but all of a sudden, Serena is like, oh, tapping. You should
She's
do
like, just Jesse, go
tapping,
just like that.
right.
just follow me.
And so she, like, is like, you know, Nick's like, yeah, we'll make an appointment sometime, you know. And she's like, no, like, you should do it right now. And so Nick's like, well, do you want? I'm like, dude, that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm
exactly.
not, you know, like,
no, I'm not open to more
right.
Spiritual, emotional work. No.
So, you know, so we start doing this EFT tapping, which I've done tapping before. I've done different stuff like this before. I've taken Teshna's workshop, who's phenomenal and is like kind of world class at this stuff. So it's wasn't a completely new modality to me.
And this is emotional freedom tapping is one of the larger known bodies of work. Yeah.
But he seems to have some kind of intuitive ability to kind of, what I felt like is like, I'm watching him react to my thoughts and emotions and feelings, and I'm like, oh shit, he's fully tuned into my energy field right now, because I can see him reacting to stuff that I'm not doing. But I know what it is, and he knows what it is, and I'm like, oh, this dude is, you know, he's in there. Yeah, it was pretty cool, and the place that, you know, the place that stuff went for me, and I may be able to pull this back into, I forget exactly why I wanted to say this in the context of what you're saying. It'll come to me or it won't. But the way that process tuned in for me, or that unfolded, right, it was completely just going into the beliefs we have about ourselves, right? The belief that I have about myself on X, Y, and Z, which then again, if you're believing that and holding that, and you have this fear, you have this trauma, you have this thing, you have this, that then, you know, that creates, at least for me, I think it's for everybody, you know, that creates my all day, every day. So it's like my mental battles, like you talked for a minute ago about, like, you know, quote unquote, I think, you know, like being a better person or making decisions that are, you know, that are whatever. But then there's the why, right? There's like the why is it difficult even to make a health, quote unquote, healthy decision?
Yes.
Or why is it difficult if I want to have healthy, pure, quote, you know, these are all quotes, but like pure thoughts, right? If I want to have thoughts that are not judgmental and
the highest self
negative,
coming forth.
and how do I actually attain that versus wanting to? Because those can be, you know, very, very different things, and it's not always just the will, right? A lot of times it is the, like, I don't know if it's the reptilian brain or if it's just the habits or patterns, but it's like the psychology of the person that says, when this happens, I feel fear, or I feel discomfort, or I feel, you know, anger, which is really just fear, or you know, whatever it is that I'm feeling, and I react this way. And that almost becomes like an uncontrollable phenomenon, right? It's like this trigger happens, or this input happens, and I respond this way. And so I've had now a couple of these sessions with Nick on this tapping, and it's some of the largest progress that I've encountered in like 15-20 years of
and
like
you've
working
done a
on
fair
that
share.
shit.
You've done a fair share of modalities and practitioners and types of things. And so you guys, is he help? So what's the most surprising thing? And now at session number like 3 or 4, whatever you're on, like what has been like the most surprising thing that got revealed?
Nothing actually surprised me at all that got revealed. It's all stuff that I have really well mapped out. Yeah. Except that the only difference is that he's good at it. So he'll share some philosophy stuff. That's stuff I know inside and out. Okay. But while you're tapping, I'm like trying to allow that to really sink in. But the thing that I've noticed the most about it, the thing that's been the most rewarding, relieving, or just giving me hope, kind of, in some of these things, is that I've really noticed more space. So like I've really noticed that I actually in the last days actually have a considerably more space between the input and the reaction,
Yes, the
So,
pause.
Yeah,
You're
where
able
it's
to
like
hone that pause. Yeah.
I'm sitting there going through an interaction, and my brain's going, I think normally this would make me
That's good.
have to like battle myself to stay where I want to stay mentally,
Mm-hmm.
given this thing that just input or this thing that just happened, and I'm sitting there not going through that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, interesting.
Would you call it the observer? Like you have more of an observer
more
role, the
ability.
watcher. You're at least
Exactly.
like, I'm tuned into being the watcher. I am the doer. It's like we're writing the script and we're acting the play at the same time. You can kind of sense like, all right, the lean back and see it going down.
And I have to say that I am a witness of that because
Yes,
since
I did. What
he's
is the
been-
report card for
So
Jesse
he's-
post Darkroom? Tell us.
No,
What
he's
grade
been
is he
there.
getting?
It's amazing. It's really amazing because I always see him and my question is for him, are you processing something? Because he's really deep, like in something like you must be processing something because he's like I feel the energy like I was like, but he's the way he's saying he likes to do his work and he's very private and I know that. I don't know, you can tell us here now if you all this time it feels to me that you have been processing a lot of stuff like
Yeah, it's like what I've experienced it like is it's almost like there's a vacuum.
Okay.
Of
Tell me more.
It's like the programs are not there as much anymore. A lot of them, right? And so then now there's like it's like this pause. It's like this, I don't have to be just kind of going off of that all the time. So now what? Like now what do I put in there because it's not the same. So I've totally been like very quiet these days.
Yes.
Not doing a whole lot really in terms of like, getting this done, we're getting that done, we're doing all this stuff. It's been much more just realizing like, I'm a little bit more in the driver's seat here, which is what I've always wanted.
Yeah.
So that's good, and we'll see where it all
It's
goes.
true,
Like
he
it's always
taught
a
me
process.
this, like,
but-
I learned it quick. No, one day we were in the river with the children, and I was like, "Come on, guys, let's get ready." Because we made a statement, which is like, "All right, we're gonna go," and because my programming is like, "All right, let's go." Everything is quick, but he told me like, "But why are we running?" Like, and I was like, "You're right. We don't have to get anywhere." It's true. I'm like, "Yeah, we can use it." This program of like, "Oh, I need to go and finish this. I need to like go to the next thing." And I noticed when he told me like, "Oh, you're right. I mean, I've been doing that a lot," and that was it for me to be able for like to change that. I'm like, I need to stop doing it and like think about it better every time I'm doing this. Quick, where am I trying to go? Like, is it worth it to like rush it out? For me, in my head, like I go the whole day ahead. I'm gonna today we're gonna do this. Then like you don't feel the day at all when you do that.
You're an automatic pilot.
Yes.
Automatic pilot. Yeah.
Like and the day is over and like, but when you stop and you're present and it's like you see every single time. It's like a timeline. Like for example, I stand to my children and look at it close, and I can see it's very different when you are like fully there. Like, so it lasts longer. So it's very beautiful.
And I feel this is what they speak of about being present. When we're not so distracted by our thoughts of the past, even subconscious, the programming, the systems. Like, well, I got to say this in the meeting. We got to go there. I got to do this. But if you're just so present and like tuned into, and children's a great example because they're so present. The 2-year-old's not obsessing about what happened 2 days ago and not sweating out what's going to happen in 2 days. Like they're just there. And I think children can pick up on presence.
No.
And parents are friends and adults often who are distracted. Siblings are older and much more distracted. And so, this is like the classic wisdom, which is so cool because EFT is like a proper, I think, modality. And I don't know the deep history, who founded it and all that stuff. I know you don't because you don't study this stuff. You just feel it and you do it. But, it was not in the Vedas. Like this wasn't written 4,000 years ago, this exact technique. But I think some of the most effective modern techniques and modern science and all these studies, they're bringing stuff that allows us to do what the yogis and the sages and the gurus and we're all saying along. It's like, do some kind of practice with your mind and your body to help you get present, and then just chill. Be the observer, watch, and then go forth a little bit more clear. a little bit more calm.
Yeah.
And so I'm speaking totally myself. Like if I need to next submit myself to a 3-day deprivation darkroom to kind of get there, like these are the practices, you know, that we do. A couple quick thoughts, like you guys as a couple and kind of like learning from each other, like that's so fun. And I know you're in the same household and you work together, but also as friends, like in Vilcabamba, there's so much of this friends conversation about, wow, I heard Jesse just did the darkroom. I was like, yeah, totally. It came out. He made it. He's alive. I was on the hiking clubs. It's like, how was Jesse's darkroom experience? I'm like, well, I haven't heard the full scoop yet. But we're talking about these kind of things, and we're talking about different things. Some people would never do that. They're not into it. They might find it unhealthy. Okay, cool. They're going to do other things with their friends. But we have this kind of community support. Not to segue too far from it, but it's just coming up for me. I was at dinner with some old neighborhood friends in my previous neighborhood last night, my old neighborhood, and it was
your old Vilcabamba.
Exactly, my old Vilcabamba neighborhood. No, Manhattan. I went back to Greenwich Village real quick last night. So I was back in the hood with my old friends, literally my old neighbors. You know them, you've met them, you know my neighbors next door. So. And I hadn't seen them in a while, but it's so sweet. The one guy, his mom's in town, right? And she's like, oh, I'm inviting some friends over so mom can see and meet people. And it was so wonderful. Nice. And my one other friend, she took LSD and she hadn't taken it in 10 years. And she does all kinds of other modalities. She's done plant medicine, but she's not like a regular with this stuff. So for whatever reason, it was calling. And it got so intense. It's like the droplet things. And she's like, all right, I'll just take like 2. I mean, what's the thing?
At the dinner.
Oh, so sorry, not at dinner.
Oh,
this happened the weekend before.
Yeah,
so the story's getting shared because I'm the newcomer and I hadn't heard the story. So everyone with grand theatrical replays was describing her entire experience the weekend before. They called a friend because they were freaking out. She was just like, she was on cloud, whatever, 10 million, 9 million. And so long story short, the friend was also there who got the phone call of like, hey, can you come and help? Like we think she's okay, but we're not sure. She was wonderful. She was just euphoric. She had dropped all the stories, right? If you know all this kind of psychedelics work that people do, she got 3 messages from it, which she would have shared with me, but it's more, it heard it from her husband and the friend. One was, it's all a cosmic joke. And she was so happy and smiling. She was like crying with this, like, it's a cosmic joke for like 5 hours. This was coming out. She goes, we're all part of the flow. That was the second message. And then the third one is, and we can't control any of it. Yeah. And so it was comical, it was theatrical, but it was so spiritually profound. Yeah. And I said, thank you guys for telling the story. And she was a bit like, we didn't need to spend a half an hour talking about it. And I said, I appreciate that because those 3 lessons I know are true, but I forget them. And hearing you tell me about it, I'm like, this is excellent. I'm like, thank you for having that 12-hour experience. So I got the Cliff's Notes reminder that I needed. And this is what we're doing here in Vilcabamba.
Right now. Exactly.
There you go. You're welcome. My friend, she's, here we are, passing the messages on. You can find this other place in the world. I had dear friends in Bali, in Hawaii, in New York, for sure. My whole big spiritual awakening was in New York. In Vilcabamba, I forget the exact phrase you used, Jesse, but we have a disproportionate percentage of people who are elated by these conversations. Mm-hmm. And I really don't get this. Well, I don't know everybody here, but from my experience, no one's pushing their spiel, like their shtick on me. No one's like, so you better do LSD. Like, Shioko, if you don't do it, then you're missing out. Like they're telling their story. Like, no one's trying to convert me to anything, at least the folks who I surround myself by, and I have a lot of friends here, but we just share. And there's some things that people are telling me, I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that anytime soon. But wow, do I love hearing about that. And that was cool.
Yeah, and I don't think LSD is the only practice that will take you to these 3 lessons.
Oh, yeah.
I received those lessons with your yoga classes. It feels...
That makes you feel so
good. In our
good.
yoga classes, like, I felt like you knew my whole life. And every time you spoke and you were touching all my wounds and say, like, not touching, like, in a bad way, but kind of like...
Speaking to them.
Yes. Yeah. It was, like, amazing. I think... same as EFT, no? EFT, dark room. I think is when you decide to open up to receive the information, you'll receive it. And I think those lessons will come in different practices.
Yeah.
As long as you go deep.
Yeah.
I mean, the student has to be ready, right? Like the person has to be.
Because you can hear the lessons being heard. It just goes straight over you. It sounds very nice. It's like, oh, she has a lot of like fortune cookie sayings that she says. Like, that's really cute. But when you're going through something, if I can just touch on this, because I think it's so, you totally hit what's going on with my dinner party friends, just sharing those 3 big lessons that came. when I speak in yoga, yes, it's my words, and yes, it's all my life experience. It has created me to be the person who I am, to put forth this messaging in a, entertaining, articulate way. But I'm actually letting myself go, and I'm letting things just kind of funnel through me. Like I am an instrument for words that are so meaningful to each person in a completely different way in that class. You're practicing yoga next to somebody else. You've all not had the same life experience, not the same trauma, it's not the same craziness you're dealing with today. But there's something that's said that's like, wow, she's speaking directly to me, and it's the universal truth. It's the universal wisdom. It is the experience of being human. We have all been through it, whether it was now, it was a year ago, it was 15 years ago. Like when these things come forth, and another, yogi friend of ours, Jake, he said something. It's like often when preachers in the, I guess, Christian faith, they're channeling in a lot of ways, like prophesizing, I think is the word. I know it's a very specific religious experience, but they step back from that and they're like, it's not about the religion. It's about an individual who's allowing messages to come through them for the many in a very almost non-personal way. And I tell some personal stories in yoga, but it's more like what I've experienced is what other people are experiencing. Absolutely. In their life. And that's to know that you're not alone, to have that feeling of like someone just verbalized something that I couldn't put in words like that, which means I'm not alone with that experience or that trauma or that hope and that dream. And that's something that, like, again, community brings that forth. It's why we show up on Sundays at 10 a.m. and we get together. Like, there's a little magic that's created because we share.
Yeah, and you never know who is open and is going to receive that message. So you better just do what it comes out from your soul. Right? Because, like, I cannot tell you, like, this is always open. This is open and closed, and you never know. And my experience, like, for example, like right now, if I can like really try hard to like connect with the divine, like, I feel like disconnected.
Yeah.
Kind of like, so I don't know if like I have to do something to connect or not. You have to like wait. I mean, the right time will come. But I do try to put a lot of awareness in every single actions that are happening in my life. Like if I cry a lot watching a movie, like I question yourself, like, this is kind of weird. Why do I cry so much? Like, why this hurts me so much? Like I don't leave it there. I dig into it.
Yeah.
Or you in this conversation you said a word, and that word like really touched my some wound, like I couldn't really hold it. It was like,
were you tearing up just earlier in the conversation?
Yes,
I completely saw it, and I was thinking, is she have an allergy or what's happening right here? And it was beautiful, but I didn't want to draw attention to the moment.
No, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I could feel that.
The more attention I get, like more I can cry. So I appreciate that.
Yes.
No, it, like, and like it made me think, like, why when you said that word, like it really hit me, like. Oh wow! Like, and it's great for me. I appreciate those things because it lets me go deeper. And that I'm like, it's just always worth
to go deeper. Yeah,
there is always
this it's a brief poem or saying. It may or may not apply to what you're feeling, Ide, specifically, but in general, I just want to share it because I found it so hauntingly beautiful over a decade ago, and it's by a well-known artist or poet, which I don't know the name, so if you know it, drop it in the comments and I'll look it up afterwards. It's just, to me, it feels so profound. Something to the effect of, I knew a woman once who cried every day, not because she was sad, but because life was so beautiful and time was so short. And it doesn't have to be the sadness, but maybe there is this like nostalgia or haunting of like, we are fleeting of existence here, and we get to have the experiences that we have. As the three of us around this table, like we've lived lives that have stretched all kinds of edges, the three of us and our community and everyone around the world. But the privilege to be able to have this human experience that we're having, like, it could bring tears to my eyes too. It's like, which is a good reminder when I get super wound up and frustrated and like pissed about this or that, and like, why is it not happening? Everything's screwed up. It's like, no, actually, it's a privilege to have this experience, whatever it is. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think you gotta use it as a tool to heal.
Yeah.
That's why intuitively I thought that the dark room would do that, because when you are outside the world, it's very easy to blame others because why your life sucks so much. because somebody didn't do the things that you wanted to do. Like, so then when you go there, it feel I thought it would be like, yeah, you notice that it's all your mind. It's all your mind doing tricks on you. So it's not outside of you. Whatever you are experiencing is inside of you. And I think that was the time for you to notice that. For me, you weren't there. It was not a dark room for me, but I was seeing like my fears.
You
My
had your own
fears came
3-day
in display.
spiritual experience, spiritual
Yeah.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and like noticing like, oh man, I miss this guy so much. I'm like, I feel so dependent, and like, I told him like, do you still love me? I said to him like, because I was afraid that he will come out and say like, I don't love you anymore. I'm like, so I was like, oh my gosh, like what kind of wounds I have here? Like so many insecurities that I still carry with me.
I have goosebumps. I feel like that's such a powerful, and thank you for sharing that. Like, not everyone would come on a video and share that, and like, these are the hauntings, you know. And sometimes we're so busy going that we don't let these irrational fears surface to see, okay, what's at the root of that. Yes, it might have to do with mom or dad or something, but it's a pretty irrational fear, but it doesn't mean it's not a real fear. Like, it's something that you're not really experiencing.
Yeah, no, and more than anything is because like growing up, like I grew up with so many insecurities, and when I share with someone that, oh man, I never felt really good with myself, I'm like, oh my god, but you're so pretty, and also I'm like, well, I never believed that. Like, can you imagine that? Like, is from the outside I received information and I believed it, and like people don't. And I share this because I think we all have those insecurities in one way or another. You know, could be with the parents because you didn't have enough love. Those brings another insecurities. When there is no presence of a dad, it brings another insecurities. So, yeah, I think we're humans and we're not perfect. I'm so far from perfect, but to have the awareness to work on it, I think is the goal.
Yeah, they're like the self-empowerment piece. They're like, it's like some ridiculous tagline from something that's not mine, but like, you know, like radical ownership or self-ownership or responsibility, like understanding that ultimately, you know, exactly as you said, that, you know, we are truthfully, fully, honestly, like scientifically, like not in any kind of it's in your head way, but actually responsible for 100% of our experiences. You know, which makes it interesting to then understand, like, where do those experiences come from? And most of them, if not all of them, come from the programs that are in our mind, which are largely trauma. Like, it's largely just imprints that got left for one reason or another that then play out over and over again. And it's like those, you know, those universal truths, that ancient wisdom that both you guys are sharing. It's super simple, right? That's the ancient wisdom has probably never changed for the last bazillion cycles. I don't even know how many cycles we even know about on Earth, but it's like, it's all the same, you know, it's all the same wisdom. But we're in this interesting time now where deep, like high level, like super hidden, like the most deep esoteric teachings, the most, you know, the most profound interpretations of religious texts of the Bible or others, that you would have had to, you know, journey to a monastery
on a camel,
balanced on one leg with no food,
exactly,
you know, and like done a 30-year apprenticeship, and the first 10
Tibet,
years were in
Himalayas.
silence, and that level of knowledge is now on YouTube.
I was just going to say it's the information age, which is like our brains can barely handle. So please continue. It's just very interesting.
Well, it's cool because it's evidence of the time we're in, right? It's evidence that humans and humanity in our evolution has progressed to the point where you can watch a video on YouTube that's a 10-minute summary of like stuff that literally maybe not 30 years ago, literally like 50 years ago, would have been very hard to even discover the concept. Like you would have had to do some deep digging just to find the concept. Much less that people know about it, that people understand that they're master creators, that they're in charge, that the key to peace is presence, and just observe, and all these kinds of things that that became known in the Western world like a little bit in like the 70s or maybe 60s
60s, 70s.
And at least in the Western world that was kind of the beginning-ish. I mean, you can certainly find stuff from before that, of course, but yeah, it's cool, like this, it's cool that as a species, at least in some way, we've reached the threshold where that kind of information is not only readily available, but there's lots of people putting it into practice and trying to understand it
and seeking it. Which goes back to the whole renaming of the renaming, esoteric Vilcabamba. You're waiting for that. We're in esoteric Vilcabamba. And I'd love to say, like, what does the word esoteric mean to, each of us, or we can a little bit share in a moment, because as part of, to me, esoteric is like that which is hidden or not revealed or like not mainstream. It's out there, and there's some things to be said for very like high level masters of certain, whether it's civilizations or studies, where that most profound wisdom of highest consciousness was not for the masses. It was kept for like the spiritual leaders to go, whether it's the deep, monks and priests, and all the other types of spiritual and religious. Over the millennia that we've had here, a lot of these masters, they kept the wisdom because they had reached a level of consciousness where they could work with it, and other people would just figuratively blow themselves up with it. Like you wouldn't even know what to do with that wisdom. So we have access to this. We have access. Plant medicine's another thing that was not readily available 15, 25 years ago. I mean, the flights that we can take and the way the plant medicines have gone and disseminated around the world, being served in Manhattan. I'm from Manhattan. I know this is a place where it's being served, is very different than where you could find that 25 years ago. I can't be certain, but I don't think it was being served in Bed-Stuy and Bushwick and Williamsburg like it is now. And then also, I just really want to add this part because it really made me think of something that you were saying, Jesse, about this access. So you guys know, and you guys watching might know this too, I'm a big Ram Dass and Alan Watts fan. And so there's a course going on right now. It's a 4-week Alan Watts and Ram Dass course. They're both dead, by the way. They're not alive, but they're each of their foundations.
Very interactive course.
Exactly. Like many spiritual planes, past lives. Yeah, go real deep. It's that kind of course. No, it's more like it's on Zoom, but each of them have not-for-profit foundations that preserve the lectures and the wisdom and publish books and lectures and stuff. So they put together themes for 4 weeks of pairing their speaking, either videos or lectures on similar topics and themes. And occasionally you'll hear, Alan Watts is said to be by many the father of bringing Zen philosophy to the Western world. There were certainly other people who had done it a bit, but he was the one who brought it to the masses. And by the masses, he was speaking at a podium in front of an audience of 1,000 people. That's as big as the masses got. He wasn't on television back then. He wasn't on the radio. But that was as big as that wisdom could get. And it's so, I get this this goosebump raising feeling as he's saying things that are so dated. So it was like the 60s and 70s. It was when these profound lectures coming forth. And the way he's framing it, he knows, he's like, this is material that's never been presented before at this university and at this ashram or whatever it is. And the people and the questions they're asking, we can all do this on YouTube right now. We can all study this. And so I think we're actually some of the most, what did we say? It's the luckiest, or it's the best time to be alive. It's the most fascinating time to be alive right now. And a lot of it is because we have this access that your dad's generation, I've talked to your dad about these profound teachers. He went and sat at their feet in the auditorium or the ashram. Like that's where he got his wisdom. And now I'm listening with my little headphones on while I'm cooking dinner, listening to these voices. Like we have opportunity to access so much in this time, and also this town loves accessing all these things.
When I have the time at night and I have like this inspiration, I play something of Dolores Cannon.
Yes.
Whatever she's playing, I love whatever she's singing. It feels so I feel the truth on her words. So, and I think everyone has their own inspiration because we all have our own path, but at the same time, is all truth. Even if it's like whatever belief system each of them can share, I think they all have their truth. They are sharing their truth, same as we are sharing here our truth. Like, so I really feel very compelled with Dolores Cannon, as much as you are with Ramdas and Alan Watts.
The the one thing I just want to say to people who, if anyone's like dealing, which is everyone, dealing with, their own stuff in these kinds of ways like we're talking about. So, I mean, I spent since certainly since like 2010, 11, but like in a less serious way long before that. But, so like a long time, like a reasonably decent amount of time studying this kind of stuff, listening to probably quite literally thousands of like those kinds of videos. Ram Dass being one you turned me on to, who I've listened to a lot since then. Like,
have you really? We got to talk about
amazing.
This. Did you finish that lecture audio thingy?
So I don't do anything in a very organized way, but what so I've listened, probably to like, I don't know, 30, 40 different lectures of his that I could just find. So they're not in any order. They're just,
all right. We'll
he's
talk.
talking about this. He's talking about that. And
but
some.
He did say that he had a lot of truth.
Oh, the guy's amazing. No, he's amazing. He's like high level. I actually appreciate him tremendously. Like, he has a way to communicate very, very profound high level concepts in a way that, at least for me, I can just take it in easily. It's like he has an ability to sort of lower your guard a bit with some of his humor and the way he goes about
self-deprecating,
putting it in, putting the concept or the point in to make you like, he'll be talking and he'll make you laugh at yourself, recognizing your own ego. And then that's him kind of making the point, but like this way, and you're like, oh, good, that was perfect, thank you, got it.
I can't understand that language. I try.
We have to get you the Spanish translation, but I think some of the nuances will be lost in cultural humor because he is, from a Jewish background in Boston. I'm totally taking off the point. I'm so sorry. You were totally going this way. I heard Ram Dass, and I hijacked the conversation. We have to find it too, and it's also cultural teachers, I think. And I know, Ida, you're listening to, you're like, I don't get why everyone's laughing. You think, what's happening?
Can you explain? I'm like,
it's
I always
innuendo, right? What
what
he's doing is he's making fun in English of the ego, basically, through innuendo that has cultural references that are from the 1970s in the U.S. Like, that you have no way to have. Like,
We'll find Ram Dass of Ecuador exists. We're going to find him for you.
I'll stick with my Dolores Cannon, which he was around.
Now he did write books, I believe.
Ram Dass, yes.
So you could read books that wouldn't be in that format. They would be like teaching a concept versus like playing with the audience, right?
The playing is a better way to learn, I believe. When you are in this reality, you're playing, and that's what you learn. No, it's more like the
and in the
theory,
lecture series.
Theory.
Yeah, when you occasionally hear the audience laughing in these 1970s lectures, like, God, it almost like tugs at my heartstrings. I'm like imagining these people, again, like your dad, like the older generation from us, like sitting there, and they were just absorbing this wisdom as much as I am now in my kitchen with my headphones on, doing it, because it's universal, and it's time. They didn't have the internet. Like, there was no internet when he was giving these lectures, and yet every Ram Dass
30 years off.
lectures, completely lands.
Super cool.
If it's possible to remember where you might have been going, I welcome that.
No, I do, but also, like, it's really cool for me too what you're bringing up. Like, so when you turned me on to Ram Dass and I started listening to some of his stuff, again, it's not something that it's like profoundly different, right? And that's kind of the point. Yeah. All of these things is the same truth that anyone's trying to share, but I started listening, so I had a quick conversation with my dad about it because I had the background of hearing you guys chat about it a little bit, and I realized that like several of the lectures that I've listened to were from the Naropa Institute during this one particular summer that my dad was there sitting in the audience. So like I'm literally listening to the teachings that my dad in like 1972 or whatever
Yes.
year it was getting live in person towards the beginning of that sort of philosophy or wisdom becoming something that people in the West, knew about. It's pretty cool. But
one question: did your dad ever try to put those knowledge into you?
yeah, he did. So like he absolutely he gave it a shot. That was not possible
When the student is ready.
That time. It went right, and it's really that.
But you said it earlier. When the student
in fact,
is ready.
I was even going to make that point earlier because, the stuff that I'm studying now was available to me in my house as a child. I didn't know that. I had no idea.
You're
I just
surrounded by it. Isn't
I just
it incredible?
thought my dad was like doing weird shit that wasn't cool. Like
he's like always just sitting there, like still with his eyes closed. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, dude, he's so boring.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Like exactly, like literally, like dude, like.
Oh my god! It might have even created some resistance in you for a lot of kids.
Oh, it
so
did.
You're like, I'm completely now shut down to that. That's not cool, and I'm gonna go
100%.
To New York and do business.
And he was very philosophical. Like even now, if you talk to him, he's very philosophical. So he'll give you these big, like, kind of stories as to why that the way my brain works. I just want that distilled down into the like actionable thing that I can take from it. And it's just our communication styles. So like to this day, if I'm gonna make a point to him, it's like this, and he doesn't know what I'm talking about. And if he wants to make a point to me, it's like this sort of thing like this, and I don't know what he's talking about. And that's just kind of But so anyway, so that was interesting. But one thing I just wanted to
rain?
We're getting some rain. But
we'll see what happens.
One thing I just wanted to make as a point for people who may be listening to this and on their own journey of of whatever they're dealing with. In my experience, for me, that's all I can speak to. No matter, you can do it. I've literally done it. Like I've literally read all the books, not all of them, of course, but I've read all the books. I've listened to literally probably tens of thousands of hours of talks and lectures and books and on YouTube. I never stop. I still do this stuff daily. Like I literally there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not inputting some of that stuff in. Over the course of like 15, 20 years, at least 12 or something in a serious way. And while I made progress through all of that time, as every human does on Earth, that's whatever they're striving towards, they're making progress in one form or another. Even though I made progress during all of that time, and you hear people talk about this, right? You hear teachers talk about it. I can just very much share from my experience, this is 100% accurate for me, is that it doesn't matter how much you know. It doesn't matter how good your philosophy is. It doesn't matter how you understand all the spiritual lessons. It doesn't matter how well you understand how you should react, how you should observe, how you should have presence, how you should this. Even all the tips and advice on how to get there are not that useful unless you've uncovered and changed the underlying programming.
There you go.
Like it doesn't matter. Like I could know that I can know everything there is to know about law of attraction. But if I can't stop creating the same circumstances and events over and over again that come out of some wounded something that feels unsafe in this situation, so they look for safety in this way, and whatever the story is for that person, as long as those programs are running, the progress is very limited. Like you're trying to put like a new program over an operating system that can't accept the program. The operating system is just not going to allow you to do that. And so I just want to say to people, like, if you're studying all this stuff and having difficulty implementing or difficulty seeing the results you'd like to see, for me anyway, the answer is in what are the underlying programs that are causing your reality to be that way and not this other way that you would prefer it to be.
That's a mic drop moment. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Well done. Well done. What I would add to that is like, yes, I agree. And perhaps this is where some of like maybe the deepest new type of work, and we were talking a little before this podcast idea of like, there's only so much new stuff you want to be doing now. You're practicing the implementing. And when we do new things, I've mentioned this on this pod before, now I'm forgetting what it's called, EMDR therapy, which has to do with tones, or the EFT, some type of practice that maybe you haven't done before, you haven't done in many, many years. I think there's some progress you can make. We're a different person, we're evolving, and then going so deep and re-looking at what is that foundation, what is the underpinning of the belief systems that are so rooted in the subconscious, and how do we start to just at least examine them? We might not need to throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of them all, but chances are there's landmines that are still in there, and you're tripping up on these same triggers, thinking, how many more yoga retreats do I need to go to? I've been to 15 yoga retreats in 10 years. Like, what is actually happening? Well, it's because that trauma that I don't even realize is still bothering me is causing a chain reaction that doesn't make sense. But I'm practicing the whatever meditation and from this sophisticated teacher, and I paid all this money to go. And it's like, no, well, if you don't get into some of our own wiring, and that is where I feel the journey, it's so unique. My EMDR therapy is not for everybody. You know, the emotional freedom tapping might be not be the next person's thing. But I think to encourage those listening, as you're saying, to like, just know you're not alone in this journey, and just keep going, re-examine, and then pause, to let things marinate, maybe integrate.
Yeah, but for example, again, if you, let's say you find out the underlying, okay, like, then there is like a space that you have to, for myself, like, wait to come with the answer for what to do with it. You know? So for example, like, all right, I know where all my traumas come from, and it takes months and months for me to like receive. This is like, it's just make a change in a step, like in your path. It make a change that you don't notice, but it will change your reality.
Yeah.
But it's not like, okay, I know this, now I know what to do. It's not, for me, it's not like that. For me, if I ever wonder, it goes like on a stage. Okay, I find out, oh, this hurts me, where it comes from, why, okay, makes sense, yeah, this really hurts me. Oh, okay. Then that's the stage of the awareness. Then like, you kind of have to ask to the universe, what should I do with it? Like, how can I change it? Or like, and the answer will take like months. It doesn't matter like what practice are you doing. Like, just all of a sudden, if you are open, that is open, like all of a sudden the answer will come for me. Like I've been asking something for months and months, and like in one of the yoga classes at the end I was like, oh, that's what it is, and like, oh my god, I got it. That question that I asked for a long time ago, for me that's because for me, knowing every day I find more stuff, every single day, it just never stops. Like, I don't know if it's I'm so wounded, or it's just every single human being is like that. I just don't personally know.
Human psyche is large.
Exactly. So I'm like, there's so much homework, and I just have to be easy with myself and like be patient. I know that the right time for this answer will come, and I will be able to change it. One person is gonna come up and show me that trigger, and like that was gonna be the answer. So, and a lot of times it's like that person that comes and triggers me, and I took the other step. That was gonna be like my solution. Like, oh, I see the difference now in how I'm taking another step in another direction.
I had an interesting experience too, which I probably can't even remember well to describe well, but maybe it'll be interesting. But so I have these emotional releases in the dark room, right? Of course, I'm missing you guys tremendously. Like you go through some lonely moments in there, even though you're 12 minutes from like your whole life is right there. It feels like there's an ocean between you and anything else, right? Yeah. So you go through some like I literally, where you have to tell yourself like, it's just one more day, I'll be okay. Like, anyways, but so I go through some emotional releases in there, and then I go home, I see you guys. It is funny. It's like a reunion. You know, we haven't seen each other for 3 days. Like, it's not a big deal at all,
3 years,
right? But it's like the kids, the 2-year-old, the 4-year-old, day, all of us are like, it was like this emotional reunion for all
That's
of us.
amazing.
And
that's amazing.
And I go through, and then so that, I guess I came out on a Saturday. I think we took the kids and did some stuff, and then, but I'm kind of in a little bit of a different space, and then I don't know if it was Sunday or if it was, no, I think it was. Yeah, it might have been Sunday. I don't know. I get lost in timelines of events, but some within the next couple of days after that, I had a day where I was at home, and I was just continuing to process, for me, like a lot of just emotions and like stuff from when I was a kid mostly, and it's just kind of letting things out, saying goodbye to things, like just having some good interaction with my own psyche on certain things that I needed to have that with. And so I put on, there's a movie for me that sort of represents this idealized, part of my life, right? Which is sort of like Christmas.
Are you going to tell us the movie or not?
I am.
Okay.
Which is Christmas around when I was certain ages. Christmas for us was this amazing time of year where everything's kind of the way you want it, and it's fun, and whatever, all this stuff. So the movies is It's a Wonderful Life.
I was wondering if that's what it was.
Were you specifically?
I wasn't
by the
gonna
way, Brandon has never seen. Yes.
We need to sit him down.
And
is he American? What's happening
right.
here?
and so,
if my day hadn't seen it, I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, I understand, but we'll fix that.
Yeah,
we'll fix that.
Well, I've made sure that she's seen it.
Okay.
But so. And I don't remember what the initial releases were, but then I was watching this movie, and I was having more emotional releases. I'm like processing while I'm watching. I was like cooking and watching this movie. It was very much like a Martha Stewart moment.
Oh my God.
And yeah, I only feel a little fruity explaining
it's
all
cool.
this. But
it's cool.
anyways, so right, no, but I'm watching this movie, and I'm sort of connecting to what it represents for me and my life and the people and the time, and like as it relates to my own process and what I'm going through and the things I'm releasing and the programs I'm releasing and so on and so forth. So I have these kind of, I don't remember the first one, but I have these kind of back-to-back sort of releasing of stuff.
Yep.
Then I'm interacting with Ide, and I believe it was that same night. If it wasn't, it was like the following night or within a couple of days. She wants to watch a movie, and she puts on a movie also from my childhood, interestingly enough, but not one that I had this kind of connection to, called The Land Before Time.
Oh my God.
The dinosaur movies. And this is kind of the story that you were telling earlier, but she's watching this
getting
story.
emotional.
And she's having these emotional releases. And I'm and I'm watching the interplay, because I had seen it before in the example that I forget. I wish I could illustrate a little better, but what I was watching the interplay, and I know this was a topic you want to touch on from a different perspective, which I'd love to hear about, but I was watching the interplay between the union, the couple, right? So the male-female thing. So then it was like I went off and like deprogrammed some stuff, released some stuff, came back, and then I watched her do the same thing with something else that I can't remember what it was right away, and I was watching it, and I was like, holy shit. And I'm like kind of patting myself on my own back a little bit. I'm like, I did that for her. She just did that because I did it, and then that created a space for her to be able to do that. And I was like, I didn't say anything to you about it because it's just the kind of, it's not that kind of, there's no reason to have the conversation. It was just,
but it's good to have it on a podcast now.
It was just like, oh, noted, like that's how that works. But so you had that, and then the movie thing, where I was releasing the same stuff from my childhood with a different movie, like earlier that day or the day before, and then you're watching a different movie that affects you and your stuff, and you're going through this emotional release, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, wow, like that interplay between the masculine and feminine, between like the way that that works, where you have these, you have two souls, but they come together to not form one soul.
Is
that's
the word
ridiculous.
Dyad? Is that a word?
I don't
Am I making
know that
up?
word.
Maybe I'm making it up, but it means two that aren't exactly the same, but it's almost like what are they called? The interlocking circles when you do this thing.
Right.
Like there's an energy, there's a third. So there's you, and then there's a third field of energy that's connecting. Continue.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it was interesting to me, based on the things I understand, and try to understand about, masculine energy, feminine energy, the way that works, the way that, you have on Earth as humans and other species, you have the option, if you so choose, to like have a masculine, feminine, merge or whatever in that kind of way, and then then it's like the whole cosmic mirror thing comes in, where you're just kind of reflecting each other back to each other, and you're pointing out each other's stuff that needs to be dealt with, and like all kind of things like that, which can go very badly or can go very well, depending on the maturity of the of the people and how they look at relationships and how they look at their life. But yeah, it was really interesting for me to see you go through two of the same processes that I did, that you didn't know about and we didn't talk about, but that went through those two processes
That's wild.
right after I did. And I was like, I think that was, I shifted something energetically, and then she subconsciously was like, I need to be there now, or I'm allowed to be there now. And then you set up this whole situation for you to do the same thing without even trying. Like,
no, absolutely. How this happened is like, okay, I said like, somehow this movie brought out to me, I'm like, I really want to watch
Have you
this.
seen it before or no?
I think so, but I personally don't remember. If I seen it, I always feel a little like endeared about
Like,
it.
the endearing.
Yes. So what happened is that you decide to look into another movie, and he pulls up 2 movies, and I'm like, in my subconscious, like, I'm just gonna let him be happy. We're just gonna play his movie, and it doesn't matter. We started watching that movie, and it was a lot of reading, and you see like, then you gotta pay attention. I'm like, okay. It's a lot of reading in the beginning of the movie, and like all of a sudden the movie stopped working. So like, all right, I think it's a sign. Yes, I think we gotta watch the other one. So we start watching the other movie, which, by the way, I don't know if it was good or not, but like, crying that amount, and like, I feel like bad for kids that are supposed to watch these things. It's a kids movie.
So we were traumatizing our children, the future generation of this movie.
Bigfoot is big. Sharp tooth is
I asked
scary.
Yesi if I can watch this movie with the kiddos like a few weeks ago, because I felt like I really want to watch this movie, and he's like, no, they cannot watch the movie. I'm like, it's a kids movie. And when I saw the movie with him, I noticed, I was like, wow. Oh, it's so painful.
And it depends, because these children theoretically have so many decades less of trauma life experiences.
Maybe,
like what's coming up, But there, of course, we won't get into the whole like media and children influences. There's just some terrible content out there for kids. But as an adult, that's, I feel, some of the most, you're feeling your own humanity. And so, was it A Land Before Time? Wait, what was it? Or not Land
Before Time.
Land Before Time. I can remember it has been, I don't know, 10 years since I've seen it. Maybe more recently, I'm not sure. But there's the profound universal human story in these animals. It's with the dinosaurs, right? Okay, just making sure. There's another thing I'm thinking of, a different, also 80s movie. I think Land Before Time might be 90s, but they're human. They bring forth the humanity in these caricatures, right? And that's often what we relate to. Like, at the end of the day, we are, like, it's been said, we are storytelling apes. Like, we're very Neanderthal with our brain. We're very wired in our like lizard brains, and we tell stories. That's why there's cave paintings. That's why they were communicating. People would sing around the fire and drumming like thousands and thousands of years ago, before perhaps even like proper language was known to everybody. But they're telling stories, right? And it's the emotion. And going into the field, I think the storytelling in an artful way in ancient times that's like a whole energy field that we don't really create. We bond over cinemas and Netflix and whatever now, but I don't doubt with the two of you and other people, couples, or even like friends group or siblings, sometimes it's as we would call it the field. You guys have a very connected field together as a couple, as a family unit. When your energy was definitely influencing that field, absolutely it influenced your personal energy. And when we open like the container, like as we do a little meditation moment before we open our podcast, I feel it, we're opening a field for the three of us to be in profound simplicity with what wants to emerge, what wants to come forth, try to drop as much of the storylines bullshit as we can. And when I do that, I feel all three of us, we kind of like click in a way that's cool. So that's like one simple example of three friends having a cool conversation with you guys. Absolutely. And this is how we can, I hate to say make each other better. It's not about making anyone better, but of course we're meant to do this together. Like we're human tribe and species. Like we're meant to be influential upon each other on this journey and nudge along our personal evolution. You know, your evolution was nudge along your evolution, and yours is his, and it's a cool thing when we do it together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's our little satsang. Wait, 1 second.
Our satsang. Yes, good vocabulary word. Yes, the satsang.
No, I used one more point about the movie is like the
Yes.
spiritual side. You know, like they are going through like a drought on this land, and they are
Yes.
looking for the paradise. And the how like the little foot had to grow in order to get to it and believe, because he didn't believe in this when his mother was looking for it. So how even when the road is rough, it doesn't feel like it's the right way, don't give up, because the another friend give up and went in a worse road, like it was gonna die. So when he went through that, it was very difficult. His friends wanted to give up, don't want to go with him. He didn't want to leave his friends behind, but his faith kept him, and his amount of love of his mom, and brought him to the paradise. So
There's just 30 spiritual lessons. You
A
just
lot of them.
You just touched on 30 Ram Dass topics, and now in this, I don't know if it's
In a
Disney or
movie.
what. And again, there's so much criticism of big media and this and that, but I just make things a bit simple, like storytelling, and for children. And maybe if it's too violent or something for kids too young, absolutely be mindful about that. But that type of stories, like in a nurturing way, and maybe it's more about book reading. You know, when you have children's books that you think are appropriate for your culture and your kids, that's why we read stories to our children. It's like to make entertaining and interesting. And they think it's about the dinosaurs, and they think it's about the egg, and they think it's about the... But there's something, this is a healthy subconscious grooming in my opinion. You know, it's a healthy, like, oh, we don't give up, we have faith, we take care of each other. I'm kind of forgetting the whole story. You know, we get scared, we don't know what's ahead of us, but we stay the course. I mean, if that's not every Naropa, you know, institute thing right there, and there we have it. Yeah.
It's funny, like it all just seems, life seems so real. Like,
isn't it crazy how real it seems?
It's so funny though, like how that is.
Oh my gosh.
You know, like we come and we create all these illusions that then become important to us, and then we define success or failure based on the accomplishment of these illusions that we've created out of figments of our imagination.
Yes.
You know, and then we sort of, you know, then we create a lot of suffering because there's like, you know, there's stuff we're trying to accomplish, and there's
the false paradigm. You're not achieving the false paradigms that you set up for yourself.
The false paradigms that you set up.
God, it's a self-loathing that comes with that. It's such self-loathing.
And then it's like, you know, and then it's like, yeah, but it's even that can be a trap too, right? Because it's like you can figure that out, which a lot of people have, right? And kind of get yourself out of the rat race and define your priorities differently. And then there's a new set of traps and circumstances, you know, that come along with that as well. But it is at the end of the day, you know, you know, I mean, I've said this many times, but and other people, and you know, it is at the end of the day, you know, you interacting with yourself. And so if there is anything to actually accomplish, in my view, of course, but if there is anything to actually accomplish, like on Earth in a lifetime, you know, going through this, it's like sorting out yourself, right? If you can actually make progress in sorting out yourself, I do believe you can check boxes and check lessons and potentially not have to learn those lessons again, for example, or have different experiences in different ways in whether it's other lifetimes or parallel realities or, you know, just whatever it is. But which I guess, like, all roads lead to Rome, right? So I mean, I think we're doing that whether we want to be or not, everybody. So it's up to you, like, how consciously you're doing that or not, and then of course what that means, because generally, I think always actually, like, all the stuff that we're working on and then all the people that are around us, those are figments of our, they're real in their world, but they're also figments of our imagination, who have roles to play with us in our path in order to sort ourselves out, because really at the end of the day, that's really all we're doing. And so if we set up like some goal to accomplish, or some thing that we want to create, or some, like, I gotta be with this woman, for example, right? That when I set that up for myself, like, there was a reason why, right? It's like, well, the lessons that would come to me, right? The amount of evolutionary process that could take place for myself, in terms of understanding myself, achieving the spiritual goals I'd like to achieve, the sort of self-understanding and the self-knowledge and the evolution in that way is perfect with this person, because there's the match and perhaps the history of karma and things like that. But at the end of the day, I think that's what we're doing in all our lives, in all our interactions. Like, I think that's all that's taking place, actually.
Absolutely.
So,
all my whole life it was played out with my subconscious, and I couldn't notice till I was here now today. I couldn't really see that, since every single thing that happened to me in my life, it brought me where I need to be.
Exactly.
And I made those choices, every single one. Even if I decide to have these parents, if I wanted to birth here, every single needed to match in order for me to have here. So I took it as a blessing, like all the things that were for me, I thought that it was very hard for me to be when I was children. I actually appreciate it, because without that, I couldn't know what I know today. It would have maybe took me like 10, 20, 15 more years, and never
15 more lifetimes.
Exactly. Right. So I'm thankful for those experiences that I left and I brought me here today. Every single one, I mean, when I was picking you as my partner, in the same way, my subconscious was playing out, like how I learned a lot from him. Like, we are completely the opposite, at the same time we are kind of like the same. It's insane. So it's beautiful, because me and him, we've been in a long road of healing, and I didn't know that was going on. I was in the matrix world and didn't understand the experience at all. But finally, to be in that space that I can understand, it makes me feel like I have to find for the answers inside of me. Like, I was always looking for answers outside, like, but why he's not that way? That he needs to be this way. Why can someone change him? No, not at all. Like, I needed to change my program, and changing my program, it made to have a very much easy interaction with him. Letting go a lot of, like, the control for me was a lot, like letting go the control. But he needs to do this. He needs to do this. No, he's the way it is, and I accept him in the moment that I decide to be with him. And we try to find balance and learn from each other.
And like the control stuff I've discovered, which is big for me too, is like
it's not for me at all, so I definitely can't relate at all.
Relate to that.
No. What?
Yeah, and then it's probably true for like
it goes to the core of
large
humanity.
number of people, right? Which is why
That sums it
I
up.
mean, it's like born in the government, and like this is like what we are living in.
True.
Like, we live in a controlled society.
Somehow that's success.
No, you're right. The control aspect of the psyche, I think, is largely, it's like stuff that you couldn't accept at some point, right? So your reality, it could have been in the womb, it could have been 1 year old, it could have been 5, it could have been 10, it could have been whatever, it could have been older. But there's stuff that somehow your psyche decided, this particular aspect of my experience is unacceptable. It's not to my liking. I'm going to change it and control it and make sure it feels this way and not that way. And then we spend the rest of our lives in that trauma, trying to control stupid little shit that probably doesn't matter at all. But in our mind, it's like a dominoes. where, well, if this happens, it means this, it means this, it means this, and then I'm 5 years old again,
Yeah.
dealing with some situation that I felt I couldn't control and harmed me, and so then we try to like put everything in a place that our psyche can say is harmonious, whether it is or isn't, but that's what we're striving for. So we try to control everything and everybody, and then freak out if if it's not
when
the way.
shocking everybody and everything doesn't go exactly,
Exactly
how
how
you
we
want
want
it.
it.
Shocking when that happens. Is that not just me? I don't understand.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing because this is something I'm trying to integrate with my children. You know, like as a mom, I want to control their decisions so they have a good life, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Good luck with
Do
that.
do not hit your brother. That's mean. No, that doesn't work like that. You just have to go to the level of consciousness and be soft. I'm like, it's so hard for me, but I have to constantly try and find ways to communicate with them that they latch in information, which is amazing. When I get it, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But when I don't, I get frustrated. I'm like, "Argh." So sometimes like I have to redo the work a lot of times, and like I have a long way for parenting, so I have a long way to have a lot of opportunities to fix it. So yeah.
So I don't know how long we've gone here. You had mentioned some. I tried to transition into it, but not
Let's
really.
do next time the
next time
masculine
for
feminine.
the masculine
Yeah,
feminine
we'll
stuff.
do it. We'll do a little trailer and teaser. And I'll just mention it. So, Alea Chickley, who's one of our amazing community members, who's part of our health retreat that's coming up in February.
As is Nick and Serena.
As Nick and we got to talk about the health retreat at some point, but not now because I feel like we've gone like 5 hours or maybe it was 15 minutes. I don't know right now, but it was so good. But I will speak to, I did a recent session with Alea, which is a new area of work that she's feeling into. It's kind of emerging for her, is around this. The teaser is like, it's the masculine feminine because we all have that inside of us. And often they're each wounded in ways that we know about and in ways that we don't know about. And how to start to unpeel some of that or unpack it so that there can be more of this like masculine feminine dance that's happening where they're not butting heads. And I was like, well, my masculine feminine doesn't butt heads. Like I'm super balanced, and 20 minutes into it, it's just coming, and I'm thinking it's our wounding, and so much of these sessions and practitioners, the dark room, all these other amazing things we do, my opinion or feeling is like they're all vehicles to that same truth. It's all on these paths to Rome. It's all the different ways up the same mountain, and so but it put some profound ahas for me, so we can talk about that type of work next time. Stay tuned.
If you felt called, it was because it was your next step for you.
Yep. Yeah. It was really, really neat.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. Please put a like on the video if you enjoyed this. If you have questions or topics you'd like us to see covered, please add them to the comments. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell. We need like a tagline. My moronic partners, who I love completely, on my other Brandon and Carl.
Yeah, no, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
you guys know. They have this tagline at the end, which is not.
Is it ever? Do you guys ever get it right? I feel like every time it's like the timing's off.
I try
and
to
something
screw
happens.
it up intentionally on most of them, but I feel like we need a way to get out of here. But anyways, guys,
we can work on that.
We're gonna work on that.
Yeah,
we're gonna be efforting that for next time.
Absolutely.
On our spiritual journey.
Of esoteric Vilcabamba.
Esoteric Vilcabamba.
Stay the path. In the meantime, stay the path. That could be something. We're brainstorming. We'll come up with it.
I'm in. Guys, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching.
Ciao.
Bye.
If you're interested in real estate properties, all of our property videos will now be uploaded on a different channel. Please click the link in the description down below.